Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, CMO at BDEX, along with David Finkelstein, BDEX's founder and CEO. What's new, David?
Busy week here at BDEX, and the weather's cooling down here down in Florida. So I see you're all bundled up in your sweater, but it's going to hit in the 40s tonight here too.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's shocking because I actually was going to ask you, did you get a tan? I mean, it looks like you've been like outside in the sun. Like it's warm down there.
Lighting or something. I don't know.
Oh man, I'm missing warm weather. I want to like be in Florida soon. But that's not happening. But we do have a really interesting conversation today on deconstructing data. We were talking pre-show with the guest, and he was telling us all sorts of interesting things in regards to media buying and data. So this is going to be a good one. So today we are just poised to welcome on Vlad. He is the CEO and co-founder of RedTrack. Welcome to the show, Vlad.
Hi, hello. Pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. We're glad you could join us today, Vlad, and we'd love for you to kick it off for our viewers and listeners that don't know who you are or don't know about RedTrack. So why don't you give them all a little bit of background about yourself, what led you to co-found RedTrack, and what you guys are doing for your clients today?
Well, I would say it's all started in 1997 when I was one of the first few weeks online, and I stumbled across the ClickZ and said, wow, digital marketing. That is something I actually want to do. And I was just the second grade student at the time doing part-time job as a receptionist. And I started learning and got my bachelor degree and quit Ernst Young and promising financial career for digital media startups. And all of my initial roles were around media buying, marketing analytics, and I was always leaning to more like the data part of digital marketing. And eventually, through multiple iterations, it led me to RedTrack. And why it led me to RedTrack? Because sometime around 2012, 2013, when programmatic went on the rise, it also became evident that the shift in digital marketing ecosystem is moving towards heavily third-party cookies, third-party data. So it would then pull back into the first-party data. So as a RedTrack, we help media buyers, especially media buyers in performance ads, small, medium businesses, mid-market companies who don't have the resources to build their own ecosystems to collect, store, process, and leverage the first-party data. We do it for them. So they have their own data. They can use it to make decisions. They can send them back to their ad platforms. So the ad platforms optimize their campaigns better. They can also use the automation based on all the infrastructure of APIs we built over the years. And now we all talk about AIs. They can use it to power their AIs. And eventually, I think we'll come up to having a digital workforce, whether done by us or by our customers, that will replace the automation and will do some routine everyday tasks. So basically, from actual couple of articles on ClickZ to shifting to digital marketing to founding RedTrack. And that's last 20 years in a nutshell, probably 25-ish something.
Yeah, that's a great journey, and just shows your the time that you've spent in digital marketing. I'm sure you've learned a lot, and I'd love to just sort of dig right in, because data is what we always like to talk about, and our first topic is the value of data in media buying. So I'd love to get your take, especially on how that's changed over the years. It's really interesting. We had a little bit of a conversation before we went live about that, and how the value of data has evolved in media buying. So tell us about that.
It's actually evolved dramatically, and I guess I covered the primary steps of this evolution. But talking about media buying, it all started at times when there was like no data. You basically had your ad networks they were called like blind ad networks. You would be pushing some ads and then literally pray that those ads deliver, then check the results and say, okay, something is working. And you would observe the outcomes by having like the when there were the spikes of the traffic, and would those spikes of the traffic actually correspond with the data that your ad network would show you. One of the first major ad campaigns we launched, the ad network took the money, delivered all our ads, and then we looked at their numbers. It was all good. We looked at our numbers. It was not so good. We asked them, hey guys, when you do the ads? And they say, hey, we launched a campaign at 1 p.m. It was done by 3 a.m. next day.
Mhm.
So that was how the ads were running like 25 years ago. But eventually, the first analytical systems appeared. And I mean, the appearance of things like Google Analytics was a major breakthrough, because they actually made the reports on the website performance, and through the UTMs, the reports on paid ads and all the other placements of links outside accessible for like all the media buys, for all the digital marketing. And that times people start to not own the data yet, but they started to at least own the reports and actually being able to go very granular into what works, what doesn't work. And then we touch the fact that it became the age of programmatic, where data allowed to power the decisions on showing the specific ads to specific people on impression-based level. And eventually, these started very, let's say, intrusive, probably because sometime in the past, we were running ad network, we were able to show the ad with the name of the person, telling, hey, name, you actually left that iron in your shopping cart 3 days ago. We'll give you 15% discount if you will go back and finish the purchase now. And that pushed the whole data back into the, let's say, first-party data era. And what is first-party data is that's the data that can be accessed only by somebody who owns that property that is being advertised. And also the data about the ad performance started to play extremely important role in how the major ad platforms delivering ads to their audience. And when the iOS 14.5 kicked in, which cut the reckoning ties between the pixels and third-party data run by Meta or Google and their backends, this like cemented the shift from the past world of third-party data and users actually having just reports, everything working behind the scenes, to the first-party data, where collecting, processing, storing, enriching, and pushing data back to ad platforms turned from nice to have to actually must have, because without proper signals that media buyers would send back to ad platforms, those ad platforms cannot learn, cannot optimize, and can find the proper audience to show those ads. And now, as quite a lot of, let's say, privacy shift, technology shifts are pushing or are cutting access of ad platforms to the data they used to have. Technologies are appearing to allow advertisers to collect, store, process, enrich, and use their own data. So it's becoming from a nice to have things to actually key commodity that is needed to be successful in media buying. And that's, in my opinion, is how the data evolved over the past something like 15 years, 20 years.
Yeah, I got nostalgic as you were talking about the way things used to work. You know, the way we used to have to run an ad campaign. We'd run through our budget really fast, and then we'd look at what look at the like Google Analytics or whatever it is, and see, okay, what demographic responded to it, and then you gotta tweak your ad campaign now and do it all over again, and just keep tweaking it until you figure out how you reach the right people, and now programmatically, all that happens automatically. So it's amazing when you think back at how we used to have to do things so manually.
You still tweak, and you tweak a lot, but you just tweak different aspects of these campaigns.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Lots of different changes. So it's, more than just tweaking too, like considering AI, right? So like how does AI come into play with all of this, Vlad?
AI comes into play, and there are different opinions. For me, AI is the enabler, because look at the things. Let's take a typical and very popular analytics for e-com media buyers. And that's like customer segmentation, cohort analysis, all those ways to see which part of data, or like part of your audience, which segment works best. And what happens? This is like a must-have. It believes to be must-have for media buying teams. But actually, almost nobody uses that, because this is very deep analytical thinking that requires to actually, especially for larger e-com brands with a lot of traffic or different potential segments and behaviors, to actually have the ideas about those segments, then test those ideas, then monitor how those segments behave over time, and actually do something about that by, say, combining the segment performance to the channels that drive that segment growth, etc., etc., etc. So the complexity and the granularity of, or the depth of decisions required, I would say, more time that we have in the day while doing all the other jobs. And what AI does, it actually allows to cut part of the chase and actually process those huge volumes of data and select the best segments. Of course, AI is AI. It requires the manual validation. But now, instead of, for example, creating those, let's say, 50 segments, checking them, monitoring them, making all those assumptions, running across different cohorts, you can put the data set into AI, process it, get to the answer, okay, this would be the top 5 segments and cohorts you should look at, and actually build those segments, build those cohorts, check them. And it might save hours of analytical thinking. So AI, I don't think AI will actually replace humans, but what AI will do is replace a lot of like manual routine preparation work, because it's really good at churning large volumes of consistent data, whether it's numbers, text, what have you.
Yeah, so I keep thinking that AI is going to replace a lot of the, call it decision data that we use today, audience data, demographics, things like that. When we're building a campaign and we're specifying what the target is, I kind of feel like in the future, AI is going to sort of be able to determine that for us. Like we won't even need to specify that, because it will run the ad campaign, it'll test it, it'll run it against certain cohorts, and it'll see what works, and then it'll optimize without us really even having to tell it what to do. I feel like we're not that far from getting there to that happening.
When you describe it, you're basically describing how Meta Advantage Plus campaigns are working. It's like you set the goal, upload the creatives, give the budget, and then, hey, run.
Yeah.
I don't say it's perfect, but it's already working for some of the types of, let's say, products being advertised. And at this moment, I would say I miss good old days when I have all those humongous dashboards with all those finance controls, and I could squeeze every cent out of the ad campaigns by switching to currencies with lower denominations. So I can bid at a lower steps compared to people who bid in euros or dollars. Now all those days are gone. You just say, okay, do this for me, and play around with the outcomes and some messages and creatives.
Yeah. So I think that segues us actually into the next topic pretty well, actually, because making media buying decisions without perfect data, right? I mean, because there's no such thing as perfect data. It's very rare you have perfect data. And so what's your take on this? This is a topic that you specified you wanted to talk about. I mean, I know that, AI, we talked about AI making a lot of decisions for us on data, but what are your thoughts on this topic?
I would say first, let's imagine that AI is same part. AI is as good as the data you give it. So you give it bad data, you get bad outcomes. You give it good data, you get good outcomes. And I think my approach to making decisions without the perfect data is largely shaped by my background education as a sociologist. We were learned from the very beginning that actually the most accurate model is the exact description of real world and look into the window into the real world. So any other model is just the approximation, and the more generic the model, the easier it's to describe and create and apply, but also the higher is the degree of mistake. And so let's talk about the campaigns and to make it practical. So when you run campaigns, and for some scenarios, it is possible to have nearly perfect data. For example, you run paid ads for emotional driven decisions, some on-spot purchases, and then you have everything you need to see what works, what doesn't work, stop ad waste immediately, boost performing campaigns. But let's assume that you run funnel which has multiple touch points in this customer discovery journey, long funnel with different channels, different iterations, some of the paid ads, some of the review sites, something else. So that means that you really don't have perfect data. And moreover, you're actually not a huge enterprise. You can build all your warehouse, you can build all those cross-device multi-touch models, but you still have to do things. So then the best thing is to start observing patterns. And what do we mean by patterns? That's what we did some 20 years ago, or even then 15 years ago, running paid ads for B2B SaaS companies, and that was believed to be inefficient and impossible. And we did that. It worked. We scaled B2B SaaS company from $500,000 to 10 million ARR through paid ads only. Actually, most of them went to Google search between 2005 and 2010. Which we were, of course, doing tons of experiments, were controlled ones, and we're observing the patterns. And what means the pattern? We know that if we change something, like run this new campaign, or add to this type of ads, or do something, we have a shift in the outcomes and basically signups and purchases exactly 6 weeks later, give or take. So if we observe the patterns, okay, we did something, but that something is very clear, very defined. When we're not doing multiple experiments across the same, let's say, lever at the same time. So we can do one experiment in one geo, one experiment in the other geo. And we did a change, then we wait 6 weeks, we see the positive outcome. The only thing we changed, well, that thing. So let's try to do more of that. We do more of that, it actually works. So now we found how we can, let's say, now popular word, scale that campaign. And so we'll keep pushing it, push until we reach sort of like the plateau. Okay, it's no longer working. Let's try something else. So by first knowing, by observing the pattern, actually remembering, like writing down things you do, and then what are the outcomes, you can come up first with the typical time frame. How much time it takes some meaningful change in your paid ads to impact the outcomes. And then observing how the patterns of making changes and getting the outcomes changes across those time frames allow you to make decisions about the efficiency of those changes without having perfect data. But as long as you can know how much you have spent and where, and how much you generated, and from what you already have something to start with. If you don't have those simple foundational basics, then of course we're flying completely blind.
Yeah, and I think it's rare that you really have perfect data. So you have to go into it with the understanding that that nothing's perfect, but you continuously test until you get the outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah, perfect is hard to find. We did get a question from the comments. What was the key success factor in scaling your business, and what role does data play in that, Vlad?
First of all, I think data plays a pivotal role, because first of all, scaling comes from a lot of different, let's say, vectors of efforts. But for anything we do, let's make a step back. So what is management and what we can manage? We actually can manage only changes, because when we change something, there will be different outcomes. So basically, we manage the change. And how do you know that change was positive or negative? Because we can evaluate the results of the change. And to do any evaluation, we need data. So basically, without data, you cannot scale anything. But then now, if we talk about paid ads, there are ways to apply data to paid ads to scale campaigns. And the most basic ones is actually not owning the reports, like what you see, for example, in Google Analytics, but actually owning the data, first-party data, because there are a lot of tiny bits and blobs of that data that you can collect and own that are very critical, not for knowing the ROI, for example, of your ads, but to attach to conversion data and to push back to Meta, so that Meta will optimize your ads better. And I'll just give 2 examples. I don't know why, it's empirical data, but collecting FBP, and that's basically Facebook browser ID, which is a cookie that you can easily get for the visit or for the conversion event on your website, attaching to conversion and send it back to Meta increases the match score. And high match score allows Meta to identify the audience and find people like those who made best conversions better for you. And not that many people actually do that. That's one simple way. Another way how you can leverage your data, and let's take the same Meta example to make it consistent, is that for whatever reasons, a lot of solutions send back to Meta, for example, only conversions attributed to Meta. So let's say you run an e-com store, you got 100 purchases, 50 of them came from Meta, so send that 50 conversions back to Meta. What about the other 50? Because in the times of Pixel, Meta knew about everything. And now when the Pixel is not working, it's the responsibility of media buyer to collect all the data and send it back to Meta, so it still knows about everything, because the learning power of 100 conversions is way larger than learning power of 50 conversions. Even though those other 50 conversions are coming from Meta, they may be lacking some of the identifiers, but they still have all the data points that are essential for that match score to identify the audience and then to run better ads towards that audience. So that's another example of the value of the data for scaling, but let's talk about just paid ads. And that's only not even through making your decisions, but by powering the optimization engine of your ad platform. And sorry, I can keep going on that because it's literally something I do for business.
No, I mean, sounds interesting, especially like with paid media. I'd say just make sure you have your strategy down and everything's working before, and your data is all in a row before you start pouring a bunch of paid money into it.
Well, yeah. And while we're talking about paid ads, I think that's
Yep.
our next topic, actually.
Oh, good thought. Why paid ads data hasn't evolved. So that kind of gets right into what we're talking about.
And I would say it's more like the perception of media buyers about paid ads data hasn't evolved. Because how we measure paid ads? There are all the known metrics, like, okay, there are impressions, there are CTRs, how those impressions turn to clicks, then there are clicks, and those clicks then become essentially visitors. We hope there is no click loss. The conversion rate, how the visitors turn into or make the desired actions on the web property, and then there is some revenue numbers, and then there's ROI, and that defines the typical. Maybe there is also lifetime value. This defines the typical approach to measuring paid ads, and it was all good until recently, because for now the most important decisions about paid ads are actually made by ad platforms. In the past, as media buyers, and that was when I remember, hey, good old days, we had tons of granular controls. Whom to show, what to show, how to show. All those controls are being gradually removed from the systems. Because with all due respect to all the ad platforms, a media buyer and ad platform, they pursue the same but very contradicting goals. They both want to maximize their profits, or their revenue than their profits. But for a media buyer, a maximum profits is spending as little as possible with as good results as possible. And for the ad platform, maximizing profits meaning getting as much budget from the media buyers as possible while allowing them to give or get the efficient result. And literally, most of media buyers would keep paying the money as long as the ROI is positive, depending on the specific case. That positive might be 20% or 200%. But they will keep spending even if they're not getting the results they used to get. And so that contradicting like approaches mean that ad platforms will eventually remove all those controls that would allow media buyers to over-optimize. And media buying platforms, they still know the outcomes because we send them back conversion data, we send them back revenue. Of course, they'd like to see the profits. But they will probably not. But they have a lot of data to drive campaigns in such a way that they are efficient, but quite a lot of budget or more budget is left with the platforms. And this is one thing. So you need to manage not only ad data, but also the data about ads and their performance that you feed back to the ad platforms. And this conception that should change. Just simple example, you have a sneaker store, like you sell all the types of shoes, and somebody buys shoelaces. It's a big question that should you actually send the data about the shoelace purchase to, let's say, Meta, because it will distort, like your average purchase size would, let's say, $150, but shoelace is 10, 5, whatever it is. And so suddenly say a very different signal, which can break the optimization. This is what has changed about the data, but nobody thinks about it. Another way is ads, because before that, the delivery systems of ad platforms were not really granular. They just know, okay, this works for this audience, and they were like the social growth. They were people-based. But with time, and this time I was talking about actually last year, now they actually know the difference between the angles of your ads, the formats of the ads. So they can tell like UGC content versus like production content, the image versus drawing, the long copy versus short copy, and they know which subsets of your target audience react best to which subtypes of your ads. And they also know that if you take the same image and just redraw it 5 different colors, it's still the same ad. They'll just ignore it and they'll push one part of it, and it will not work. But if you do the same, say, angle, but through UGC, through professional production video, maybe through animated video, maybe through some image, maybe through some user story, and put all that in, suddenly Meta will start pushing different creatives to different people. And this will optimize your ads better. This is the ad data that still a lot of media buyers don't take into account. Okay, this creative works. Maybe it's not this creative, maybe it's this angle, or this format, or this particular creator on UGC content. It actually works. We did those experiments. We know which creators worked for us best, and eventually we are switching back to our team.
And then you start tweaking things again, right? We're back to the beginning. Like, there are those manual tweaks. You see which UGC creator. That is so interesting. And there's just so many ways to do that. But I'm really curious to hear, because I know we've only got 12 minutes left, what tech tools you're using. I know you've got some that you're going to share, but let's get into that right after this brief message from Writer.ai.
Hey there. I'm Alora Weaver, the host of Writer's podcast, Humans of AI. We take you behind the algorithms and into the real stories of leaders building AI responsibly, from leading AI scientists to healthcare physicians preserving the human touch to retail innovators personalizing at scale. If you're navigating this rapidly changing world of agentic AI, this is a chance to hear how others are doing it too. Find Humans of AI presented by Writer wherever you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. So yeah, let's get into what we were talking about with tech stack, because you've just shared so much interesting stuff with us about paid media and media buying. But with all of that said, what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack that are empowering you and your team, Vlad?
Well, I might be on the very extreme part of the tech spectrum, because my basic tools are handwritten notes. I have tons of them. Actually, I actually keep my to-do list a very specific way across my areas of responsibility and the handwritten notes. So it's just not one list, it's actually multiple lists. So it keeps me focused on what I should do first and then what I just should do. And in the middle of the stack would be my phone. Because I actually read a lot, and I usually read a lot when I have a spare moment, and that means that I don't open laptop, I open the phone and read there. I'm talking more about business read, not books, because I still prefer paper books. I also have them around, like this one. And on the other end of the spectrum would be the AIs, and specifically LLMs. And for me specifically would be LLMs that work with the text, because my work is about processing large volumes of data, conceptualizing. So I don't use them to make my work, but I do use them to ask me questions. And that's probably the most interesting use. Like when I research some problem, usually I would Google for it. Like I would go search and I would ask questions I know about the problem. And then I would research the broader spectrum and I would come up with the questions I don't know. And now I cut it short because I actually let AI ask me questions about the problem I'm researching. And of course, like frankly speaking, like half of those questions are not good. The other part of the questions I actually know, but there's often 1, 2, 3 that I would not thought about myself. So wow, that's a good one. How I do that? How do you think about that? And this dramatically improved how I address the things I need to think about, to make decisions about, because now I can question it from way more broader angles with way more shorter time. So this will be the spectrum of tools, from like handwritten notes to text LLMs.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely. I think we're all kind of in the same boat. Use a little bit of everything.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's amazing how it evolved for the past, let's say, 2 years, because in the initial, of course, it was more like a tool. And now it becomes like a medicine tool. Tool is a good word, more like a plaything. But now it actually becomes a tool. And some I talk to people, they say, "Hey, I don't even know how it would be do all the things without the LLMs." I say, "Well, you'll do it like you used to do it before.
Yeah.
We'll just do less in the same time." And for me, I always remember the days when internet was on the rise, because and so finally, you know, they are on the rise because literally there were internet companies. And when somebody asked me, "Hey, what will be the future of AI? How will all these AI companies will be?" Say, "Do you know about any internet companies?" I say, "No." I say, "Yes," but there were multiple in the past. So same with AI, but a bit faster. My bet is that in like 2 years there will be no like AI companies.
Oh,
It will be like you don't have internet companies right now. So you will not have AI companies 2 years from now, because it will be like everywhere. It will be part of how
Everything.
people operate, how people do business, how people work.
Yeah.
Funny, David had an internet company. Now you have
I also had.
Oh yeah.
It was like where it's called was like internet company, because we're doing like website design, but we're also doing printing, and we're doing some consulting things. But we said we're an internet company, of course, because we can do websites. It was very fancy.
Yeah. So from 1994 to 2000, I owned an internet service provider. So yeah, we just provided access to the internet.
Oh, that actually is still important, right? You cannot use the tools you don't have access to them.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, and internet is just an essential of life today, just like AI will be for all of us in the very near future.
Yeah. So for me, the most curious part is how the interfaces will change, because my like expectation, these phones, phones will remain probably, but all the apps, all the marketplaces are high likely to cease to exist, because they are just the interfaces to the data on the go. And you will have more convenient interfaces to AI, which will then work with you inside of you or with you on your data, when phones are not the most convenient interfaces. And then for that, I see like the way the Meta goes with their glasses, and I don't have one, and I don't plan to get one in the near future, because while they're still talking, I can use the phone. But when they start showing things, then it will be the right time to actually switch to a different interface.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Well, in closing, Vlad, would you like to let listeners know how they could find you after the show?
Probably the best way is to find me on LinkedIn or elsewhere, just by going for RedTrack, or for me, Vlad from RedTrack. And between Vlad and RedTrack, you'll find me. And I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. I'm now also on Instagram, because Instagram is a surprisingly active tool for all of our customers. But again, I post little, but I usually read. So if you find me, I'm happy to answer all the questions.
All right. Awesome, Vlad. Well, this has been great. We really appreciate you joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
I feel like our viewers and listeners got a lot of good insights. So thank you.
Absolutely.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll go ahead and close this out. Bye-bye. So audience members, we want to invite you to get powered by VDEX. Build authentic connections with your audience and drive unprecedented engagement. So just imagine harnessing the power of AI to craft your audiences that truly resonate with your brand, ensuring that your marketing is hitting the mark every time. We want to bring you closer to those marketing goals, and we're eager to guide you. So just visit VDEX.com. You can click on the Talk to an Expert button and get powered by VDEX.